The most powerful Surface All-in-One is back and more powerful than ever. Has Microsoft done enough to become the ultimate creative studio and drive the Windows ecosystem forward? Let's find out. Okay, so let's start with the unboxing. And in the nice new Surface Studio box, you'll notice it's different. It doesn't have the owl image in the front, and it's nice, tight, packly sealed, almost airtight. And you'll see that the Surface Studio monitor lays on top of foam here and a lot of cardboard cutouts, and especially this foam piece that I had trouble with separating the base from the top. And this is to stop pressure and just fright and all the delivery from really doing any damage from your screen. Lift the entire Surface Studio out and go ahead and pull out that foam plate. Now let's take a look at the back and notice the USB-C that really shows the Surface Studio 2. It's really the only aesthetic difference here. And now we'll go ahead and look at the contents of this year's box. On the back there, you should have all your accessories and even the power cord. So once we open this box here, you'll go ahead and see that yes, indeed, we have the keyboard, the stylus, and the Surface mouse. And notice closely that the Surface keyboard is included isn't the one that you can buy separately that has the fingerprint sensor, so I thought that was an interesting touch. Let's go straight into the review. Welcome to the Surface Studio 2. With the second generation of the Studio, the Surface team has re-engineered the entire base to address the criticisms on devices of its initial debut, namely graphics power, processing, and storage, while keeping the iconic design, the gorgeous and massive display, zero gravity hinge, and premium build quality all the same, now with USB-C. All this amounts to a Studio that is 35% faster, 50% more graphics power, and a brighter display with 22% more contrast, and still pushing 13.5 million pixels on this gorgeous IPS panel. The Surface Studio 2 brings back the 28-inch PixelSense display with 4500 by 3000 resolution, 192 ppi, a 3:2 aspect ratio, and 10-point multi-touch. With up to a terabyte or 2 terabyte solid state drive, this is a true SSD versus the hybrid SSD the Surface Studio 1 shipped out with. And it utilizes the NVIDIA Pascal architecture to fit in a powerful GTX 1070 in the base, similar to high-end gaming laptops like the Razer Blade and Asus ROG Zephyrus. Now it can be equipped with up to 32 gigs of RAM and runs an Intel Core i7 7820HQ. It has 4 USB 3.0 connections on the back, a full SD card reader, USB-C, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. With a gigabit Ethernet port, you have a 5 megapixel front-facing camera with an IR blaster in front with Windows Hello and integrated 2.1 speakers, Dolby Premium sound in the base. This display is phenomenal. And I can't stress enough how seeing this display on the Microsoft Store and the Microsoft kiosk in a badly lit mall doesn't do the Studio 2 justice. It draws you in. A massive 28-inch pixel display that you'll get so close to that your parents might yell at you for sitting so close to the TV. And you'll want to interact with it. Touch, feel, and zoom. You'll open a website or photo and immediately zoom in even further as far as the OS will let you go. And you won't find a single pixel. And believe me, I'm a fan of displays, coming from the thinnest TV in the world with the LG Wallpaper TV, the OLED from the Galaxy Note 9, or the more accurately calibrated iPhone XS Max, or even the Liquid Retina from the iPad Pro. This display competes in those leagues, and by sheer size and scale, along with a 10-point touch display, the fact that it can hold your weight, it definitely competes. And it draws you in, it makes you want to lean on it. It's arguably the best implementation, really pushing you to create, sans the portability and mobility. The new display is 38% brighter than the previous model and has 22% more contrast. So let's do a test. Studio 2 on the left, Studio 1 on the right. This is the darkest brightness. You'll notice right away that the Studio 1 was very dark. And notice the contrast on the left versus the right. 22% more contrast and color accuracy, and you can see it in the fuller colors, almost warmer. The transition was also smoother as we increased brightness. And let's take a look at that again as we go back to the darkest brightness settings. The Studio One is very dark, and even the lowest setting on the Studio 2 on the left is much brighter and much more visible. Now, as we increase again, notice the contrasts and notice how smooth it is. You can tell minute color differences really in the calibration of these displays. All of this powered by 13.5 million pixels on the Surface Studio 2, and it supports 4096 levels of pressure sensitivity from the Surface Pen. Now, Microsoft is also supporting tilt functionality on the pen. And just like last year, the Studio features crucial display modes, sRGB, DCI-P3, and Vivid for your entertainment needs. But for artists, you can literally recreate the scale and coloring of not one, but two 8x11 sheets of paper. And I'd argue this is an ambition to make a product for the artist's cove, the ideal creativity, a place to come in, peaceful, tranquil, and simple. But let's talk about the power. 2016's model was constrained 980M mobile gaming processor. It's capable, but nowhere near the performance of true desktop setups. But the Pascal architecture revolutionizes this, allowing 50% more powerful GTX 1070 to fit right in the base. Thank you. Running and editing 4K footage along with pushing 13.5 million pixels is no small feat, which makes the Studio a true productivity center. Now let's talk the hard drive. This year features a true SSD versus a hybrid 2 years ago's model. Being an avid SSD enthusiast, the hybrid was glaringly obvious. Simple tasks like opening a file explorer were instant on true SSD builds like the Razer Blade, versus on the Surface where it would take a second. And the hybrid drives work by optimizing memory and only placing the most used apps on the true SSD. So only if you kept regularly using or opening your apps or data access pathways, you'd see a notable improvement in speeds. But the Surface team listened, and this year they're having none of it. File transfers, opening applications, and loading hundreds of gigs of data are an absolute breeze. You'll notice a big sell from store reps is the elimination of the hybrid drive. Faster and more reliable with less moving parts. Always a win. You have a great trifecta here. The standard upgrade bumps from the Core i7 processor, the Pascal 1070 graphics card, and notably the true SSD, all amount to a Studio that is indeed 35% faster with 50% more graphics performance and power. The Studio 2 comes with upgraded CPUs and GPUs, but one of the things you'll notice is that the Surface base runs hotter, and that's important focus on here. For throttling and performance optimization standards, the Studio 2 runs noticeably hotter at the base than last year's, meaning the team raised the temperature threshold from the original Surface as a show of confidence in refining the base and build. Remember, you're not supposed to be touching the base in theory, and when you're really pushing the device you can hear the fan, but the temperature is never scorching. The base location is a clear advantage versus notebooks that constantly have to throttle your performance because you're touching the product all the time. Let's talk about design and build quality. The zero gravity hinge is back, and just like the original, it strikes the perfect and elegant balance between adjustability and sturdiness. I can't even imagine how much engineering complexity went to get this right. A matchup of spring-loaded screws, hinges, and two butterfly counterweights in the glass panel to add durability, stability, and just reliability. So let's talk the build quality. It's top tier and top notch. For a machine that can go north of $5,000, its build is supreme and surprising because you're not carrying this thing up and around, normally moving place to place like I have. First, you can hold this device at any angle, grab and add pressure anywhere you want and it won't break. Top left corner, hinge, base, and shake it, nothing. The Surface team should be proud that they built something this sturdy. And I've been told by Surface reps that you can grab the power cord that locks in the back and swing the Surface Studio around. And sorry, I'm not doing that, it's something so expensive. Please remember there are two locking mechanisms in the back that hold the power cord if you ever need to remove it. And you can carry it by the cord once locked in. There's a beauty in minimalism, Jam-packed all-in-ones with 21 pounds of impeccable build quality. Bravo. Now let's dive into the smaller details and smaller upgrades. Yes, the mini display port has been replaced with USB-C, a great addition for adding additional peripherals or monitors and accessibility, and it can support up to 2 additional 4K UHD monitors. A slight surprise on the Surface line that this device is the only one not compatible with the Surface dock. And yes, I know the Surface proprietary port was for charging with every other Surface device, except this one, which is a desktop that doesn't need that. But this is the only one without it, but I take USB-C over the proprietary dock any day. The updated Surface Pen is also included with 4096 levels of pressure sensitivity and tilt support. No more clips this year. This type of design has been seen on more recent Surface Pens, and one of the few design flaws was people breaking the Surface Pen while trying to remove the quadruple A battery. You pull it straight off where it was a twist and release, and this year not so much, measuring more pressure sensitivity in one pull. Now, being the same design from last year pen placement, you have the options, but they still kept the super weird right corner over the buttons, which seems like a simple oversight, but at this point it's a silly nitpick. Speakers. Features 2.1 Dolby Audio Premium. As with the original, there's more than a blast, and it's capable of full sounding and good balance. Surprisingly so, they were a strength from last year, they carried forward with it, and with the dual microphone array, it really wants you to make this a Cortana-centric device, and I wish it really could be in this device that's in low power mode that can be my Cortana assistants, like the Google Home or Lenovo displays, and how amazing would that be, especially for your Amazon and Alexa Echoes. So imagine if you could ask your Cortana what's the weather, asking her what movies are out, or asking her to tell you a joke. Something that stands in your corner, utilizing this massive display as your personal assistant even if you aren't sitting in front of the device. That'd be so amazing. Now let's talk about the accessories. First, the inclusion again of the wireless adapter for the Xbox controllers in the base is just icing on the cake. Forza Seasons and their graphics on Microsoft's best display. It is a gaming rig, although I expect a clash with true PC gamers because to work on the studio, you push elegance, minimalism, and design. Now gamers love precision and refresh rates, mechanical keyboards, precision wired mice, and wrist pads, wrist rests. So if you are gaming, I totally expect your desktop to look more chaotic than the elegant mice and wireless keyboard and minimalistic design. Now for the Surface Dial, just like last year, for a complete experience as a studio professional, you're gonna want to use a Surface Dial. As the pinnacle of all-in-ones, if you use this for managing databases, running queries, building reports or spreadsheets, or pure video editing, I would say that the Dial is not mandatory, but for artists, it's definitely a complementary accessory. There's a dedicated, albeit limited section of the App Store that supports a Surface Dial, and although the third-party developers, this product is definitely niche, so you won't see too broad support. Standard play, volume, and zoom features are available, and I have to admit, scrolling on the webpage is really comfortable because you can always dial in just as much as you'd like. But the apps that really matter have the support, and that's what's important. The Adobe Suite's Photoshop, and I even tested Premiere Pro for video editing. Fortunately, it doesn't show up in Lightroom, but I have a hard time thinking about what the dial could be used for. Clearly, for those apps Photoshop, the dial is registered and recognized right away. It does take some getting used to, and many artists will still fight for the Wacom stylus, and I would say once you regularly use the dial for your light leisure scrolling or Photoshop professional needs, it's a useful, albeit niche extension, similar to the touchscreen. Support from third parties just isn't there, but in this case, Adobe Photoshop is king, a near monopoly, and it does have native support, which would satisfy most artists and creators. You'll find support from a few apps, Autodesk, OneNote, and it takes some time to get used to, but once you really get the hang of it, man, it's so cool to zoom in your drawings and add fine detail. OneNote supports the dial natively, having a cool playback feature for your drawings. And scrolling on websites all day, drawing detailed art, zooming in, changing the pen tip length, editing opacity, or coloring Photoshop. There are multiple ways to get these options, and ideally the dial will be your go-to for precision fine-tuning. So fine-tune away. It's a little mesmerizing, especially on the big screen, but it's awesome, and it's the only way that I'll scroll through web pages on this device. Closing thoughts. This machine is north of $5,000 USD. And with such a beautiful design, display, and performance, you'll wish it was productivity and entertainment center. At this 28-inch screen size, pushing 13.5 million pixels, it's only fair that you'd want to also be able to sit back, watch movies, treat this like a television set. And from afar, it looks so unsuspecting, like a small HDTV which is 3:2 aspect ratio, which unfortunately doesn't translate or doesn't make it a replacement for a TV, because TVs can get away with such poor resolution and scale. But once you take one step closer and dive right in, sit up close, you're in a whole nother world of immersion and productivity, a creator's studio, just as it was meant to be. Again, don't let the storefronts fool you once you sit down. It's just you and the display inspiring creativity, with the focus on creators, artists, and fans wanting the top of the line, and absolutely no compromises, and with deep pockets. Similar to the audience with the iMac, you have the Surface Studio 2. With this improved display coming from an already stellar display in 2016, flexing the Pascal graphics card upgrades, the true SSD, the Studio 2 is the most expensive, most niche, and ambitious all-in-one on the market. The product pushes you to create, and even if you don't feel artistic or feel that you can't draw, you'll want to. It literally inspires you to use all the new bells and whistles that Windows has to offer, which is exactly what it's supposed to do, drive the Windows ecosystem forward. So for the creative in your business, the Studio 2 is definitely the centerpiece of your productivity and power needs. And for you creators, whether those living in Excel or those living in Photoshop, this is definitely a device to consider if you're looking for a top-tier performance product. Let me know what you guys think in the comments of the Surface Studio 2, or even your comments and your experiences with the Studio 1. How have those been holding up? Are you in for the upgrade, or will you wait a few more generations before more improvements and more drastic changes come by? Have you switched from your Wacom tablets and your iMacs to this Studio? And how has Windows ecosystem and the Surface line really left an impression overall? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.